Hi, I'm Amanda Mesquita, and I'm here with our guest Julian Krinsky, the owner of Julian Krinsky Camps and Programs. So to start off, can you just tell us about your journey and the beginning of the camps and how you got here and where you are today?
Oh gosh, I'm 65 years old, so you can work it out chronologically. I left South Africa in my late 20s. I am an accountant with a law degree, and I had played tennis at Wimbledon and in the French and all over when I was younger, before I came here. And I can't stress enough the education part, we'll get back to that. But when I came here in 1977, I practiced as an accountant. Very useful trade, but didn't enjoy it. And after about 3 months, I started teaching tennis part-time. And the tennis started to flourish, and I gave up accounting after 6 months, much to everyone's sadness, especially my dad, who had educated me with 3 degrees. And he said, "Why are you doing this?" And I followed my passion, which I think is really important. And realizing as a business principle, it's very interesting, because I had never thought of business. I was accounting in South Africa, I was an accountant, but I'd never really thought of the business of making money. An accountant does his work and gets paid for it. And so when I came here, all of a sudden stuff kicked in that I call it survival instinct. Wife and 2 children and $1,200 is a serious survival. I did things I never thought I could do or did do. And so I realized, from a business point of view, as a doctor should realize, or whatever, a surgeon, that your hands are your assets. And if I ever hurt them, I always tease people, if a steamroller ran over my hands, I would be in trouble. So I decided to have people work with me, for me. So after I had 40 hours of teaching, tennis teaching a week, the 41st hour I found somebody and I gave them that hour, and I said, well, how about paying me $5 and you take $15? It was those days of $20 an hour for a tennis lesson. And eventually that second person had 40 hours, and I was making $200 a week from him, which is the big word I use, is passive income, and that's what I needed. I took a second pro and a third pro, and at one stage we had about 50 pros. Wow. Then I realized that tennis is quite constricted or restricted to 4 on a court at most, or 5 maybe, if you're a good teacher. And so I wanted to increase my business. At that stage it was a business. And so I thought, what am I doing here? I'm teaching tennis, which is a business person's sport, which is a life skill. How about some other life skills? And from the tennis came golf, and from the golf came business and cooking and fashion, and hence the Julian Krinsky Camps and Programs. The residential part, which is enormous in the summer, we see about 3,000 to 4,000 students, about half from overseas. Very interesting. It's part of marketing, and we can talk about that. Residential started at my house. I had a small house, and kids would come to play, and really the way you get good at tennis or anything is to practice. Right. It's not the half hour or an hour tennis lesson. I'd say, why don't you just practice? And eventually I had 10 or 12 or 15 youngsters staying at my house, and we used to pitch tents. And then I came to Haverford College. That was 35 years ago. And been there since. We were at Villanova, and we are at Penn, which is very successful, and branching out into New York next year, please God. So that's my story,
That's
and
awesome.
I'll stick to it.
Wow, so that's a really great story and definitely an inspiring one. Can you elaborate more on what your motivation and your inspiration was for the start of it and how you keep going with it?
Well, motivation, I suppose, at the beginning when I first came to America was I'm embarrassed to say I didn't have any money. You know, I mean, we had a very nice life in South Africa, but $1,200 and a wife and 2 children, young children, doesn't do it. And so I was definitely motivated by wanting more. I've subsequently, it's easy, I mean, sometimes wealthy or successful people, it's easy for them to say, but at the beginning, believe me, I was down and out, and that's a serious motivation. But sometimes when you think of making money, you become narrow, and you have to expand your mind. You have to think the big picture, and which will translate into the little pictures, and you know, it's the old dollar by dollar, but just on a big picture scale. So that was the main motivation, and going along as things built up, I had other motivations. It was pleasing and teaching young people. That to me is an enormous motive, still to this day. Being able to give to charity or work with charities is a great motivation for me.
Relationships.
Absolutely. And employing people is an enormous motivation to me. I mean, at this stage of my life, at 65, being reasonably successful, I will discuss what success means in my eyes. It's not necessarily the money. My main motivation is to employ people. We have about 300 working in the summer, in the winter about 40 or 50, to give them new lives. If they come from another country, to me that's the greatest satisfaction. To see happy faces of young people is thing. To give to charity and see what good it does, that's a big motivation of mine. So these are different motivations. Certainly my priorities changed since 1977. I had no choice.
Longer scrambling.
No.
Well, I think it might be a little bit, it's clear from your answer on motivation, but what is the best part of your job?
Best part of my job now is just seeing these people who work with me. I don't even say for me, because as I was explaining to you, I'm the bottom of the triangle. Just to see their satisfaction, to see the satisfaction of the kids. It's nice.
You really are a person-to-person guy, right?
Yeah,
I like
people. I'm very lucky. You know, I could be accounting in a small office somewhere and adding up figures, which is not bad for some people. It's interesting. I worked for my dad in South Africa. He had an accounting firm, and his partner one day said to me, "You're not made for accounting." And I thought, no, this can't be true. My dad's an accountant. I'm an accountant. You know. He was right. Yeah.
Well, that's cool to hear. So not only for yourself, which is clear, but how would you tell other entrepreneurs what the keys to success are?
That's a big question. It's not for sissies, being an entrepreneur. Definitely not. The big word with entrepreneurship is risk. And you really have to lay it out, but if you're prepared to learn, if you're prepared to have mentors, if you're prepared to fail and pick up everything and give it a go again, then this game of entrepreneurship, this business of entrepreneurship is made for you. If you're not, and thank God everybody's not, because we'd all be in trouble as entrepreneurs. We need some people to not take chances while we take chances. So my advice is go for it. There's nothing like being your own boss. I mean, it sounds terrible, it sounds crass in fact, but it's nice to be able to go by your own You can't get too cocky. It's the same. Actually, my tennis career has given me some very good insight into business. You know, when you get too cocky, you lose. When you put your head down, you lose. There's a lot of similarities in playing at a high level of tennis and entrepreneurship. So, and you risk it. When Wimbledon just finished last week, people don't realize 128 men and 128 women entered Wimbledon and only one succeeded.
Right.
So 127 failed. But if you don't try, you're going to fail as it is, so you might as well try. I'm all for it. What goes against being your own boss is I sometimes think that I'm unemployable because I've been making decisions for so long. I'm not sure I could handle somebody else making my decisions. So that's a downside of being your own boss. But it's worth a try. You know, if you're young, you have nothing to lose. Absolutely. Between the ages of 20 and 30, what's the worst that can happen? You can come back to square one.
So do you think that you're still taking chances now and taking risks?
That's a great question. As you get older, you take less. Because you're protecting. And not so much growing, and the risk is different. We constantly start new programs. If they fail, and you have to go to fail, not so much to, I mean, sometimes I get very rosy eyes, but if I could see the failure part of it, if they fail, it's going to hurt me, it's going to hurt my ego, it's going to hurt my imagination. I'm saying, what was I thinking, you know? But on the other hand, I can still eat dinner, sort of thing. Whereas when I was young, if that stuff failed, I was in trouble. So I find just the people I meet take less chances when they get older. We're into preservation rather than growth necessarily, but I've also much to lose. When I started, we took these crazy chances. When I think of the stuff I did starting, I'd be scared to, especially with our social networks and all that. I mean, I used to get up to some ridiculous stuff. It wasn't bad, it was ridiculous. And if we talk about brands, and that's really important, and I hope my brand was squeaky clean then, but it could have got unsqueaky because, you know, you make your reputation over years and you can lose it in a second.
Yeah, that's true. And so obviously it did work out for you. You have your camps and programs, but 2 tennis clubs and 1 golf club?
Well, we used to rent a golf club, Valley Forge Golf. That was an interesting exercise. It was wonderful. I have no regrets. Actually, I have no regrets. You can't. No regrets and no blame. It's the way an entrepreneur should work. You suck it up, in terms of regrets. And blame, you suck it up also, meaning I can go out and blame everybody for certain things going wrong. But as I said to you at the beginning, the buck stops here. So I've only myself. If somebody who works with me messes up, and we all mess up, I messed up because maybe I hired that person or whatever. So you just take it like that. Yes, I have 2 indoor clubs, very interesting. I have the Julian Krinsky camps and programs, which is quite enormous. Sometimes I have no idea what's going on, but we'll get back to why I have no idea. It's very important who's around you. And I have a lot of property downtown, and that's serious passive income. I have 180 old homes downtown, and obviously a property manager and all that, and that's another part of our business. We're actually building 4 townhouses on one of our tennis clubs, not to take away from the tennis club, but on the land that's there. And it's pretty exciting. So that's a large organization, and you manage it year-round. So how do you face with certain challenges that arise, and how do you stay on top of that? Well, it's what I was saying. I think the whole trick to business is to find people, number one, smarter than you. I have a bunch of people smarter than me. I'm not shy to admit. I understand my weaknesses. I think it's really
That's great.
important. I'm not a detailed person, notwithstanding the accounting. And so my partner, Adrian, we've been together 35 years, he loves detail. So he takes it.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily an image person, because I sort of just came off the boat. My wife is fantastic. She looks after the image of our business. She looks after the image of me and all the rest of it. And so that's the second person. I've got tons of these wonderful people around me who fill in my gaps, who fill in my holes. You can't do everything. So if you can get somebody, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, but then you get somebody else to fulfill your dreams in different ways, it can work very well. So I've surrounded myself with not only cleverer people, but the most wonderful, loyal. I have so many people that have worked with me for 20, 30 years. And yes, I pay them well. After all, they have to earn a living. I treat them well, treat them with respect. There's no word boss in our organization. I don't like that word. We're all in it. And if they fail, I'm going to fail. So I'm working for them, actually. I'm their, I don't know, servant leader or whatever. So this allows me to run it year round. And in a way, I'm proud to say I don't know fully what's going on. My wife complains to me. She's a micromanager. I'm not. Maybe I have faith or whatever, but I truly believe stuff will happen, and bad will happen too, but you have to run with it, So I don't micromanage the people around me.
Okay.
And that's been good for me.
So do you delegate the work evenly, or do you see those challenges as kind of do you face them, or do you let the people handle the challenges?
Well, some I will handle, obviously, but I will delegate our marketing to our marketing lady, who's wonderful. She's been with me 11 years, and she handles all the marketing. She was taught by my wife, and so she's fantastic, and and the relationships I'll do. I enjoy people, so I'll handle that part. But Adrian, my partner, will handle the details of all the colleges. Tim Farrell, who's been with me 32 years, he's our CFO. He'll handle the finances. And I have to trust that that he'll do well, and that my finances are in order. It's too difficult at this stage to start poking my nose in everywhere, and people don't like that. They don't like you swooping down on them.
Great. So I would imagine that marketing is a top concern for your company.
Enormous. Yeah.
What are some of the key strategies you have?
Well, to start with, you have to have a brand, which we have. You have to keep it clean, which we try. Some of our biggest marketing is word of mouth. And people think that's cheap. Oh, so-and-so will tell so-and-so. It's very expensive, because you have to produce a great job. So to say that word of mouth is not marketing, or it's not part of your marketing budget, it is. It's part of the whole deal. But the challenges we face in today's marketing, you would know at your age, is things are changing 100 miles an hour. And in fact, when Sarah talks about some of our marketing, I've no idea what she's saying. I mean, I can understand Snapchat and Instagram, and and I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and all that, but the way she talks about Google Analytics and just, it's very different. Although I must say the circle is circling, as does business. It circles. I think there's just circles of life. So me and Elton John. So, but the circle of impersonal business is changing, and today it is about relationships. We started about 5 years ago an internship program where young people, 15 to 18, would come and live with us at the University of Pennsylvania and do an internship, which is wonderful. It gives them a chance to feel out veterinary internship or whatever, business, and it's very difficult to find jobs, internships for 15 to 18-year-olds.
Right.
Nobody wants that. They just won't. They won't chance it or whatever. And I went to my pool of friends and acquaintances that I have looked after their kids and all that, and we have 100 internships.
Wow.
So I went to 100 people. So if you said to me, I need an internship at the mayor's office, I can go to the mayor and ask him, which I did last year, for an internship.
Oh, that's great.
And so far, so that's relationships,
right.
Pure relationships, because believe me, if I wrote to these people, nothing would happen. I'm all for a warm handshake and looking somebody in the eye, and funny enough, you haven't touched on it yet, and we talked a little about it in charity. The more I give, the more I get, and I have over the last 25, 30 years been able to give more than I get, and yet I get more than I give. So my advice is put it out there and you'll get it back.
Great.
And the relationships builds into your brand and builds into the business card and builds into going to where you have to go to and presenting yourself and meeting people. It won't happen if you lie on your couch. So my advice to everybody is get out, go do it.
Word of mouth is powerful.
Yes. Yes.
Great. And so you have been doing this for a while now, and I'm sure you want to rest at some point. So have you had thoughts of retirement? And if so, what are your hopes for that?
The famous exit strategy. I was fortunate enough, talk about relationships, to fly back on a private aeroplane of Leonard Abramson, who sold his business, US Healthcare, for some many billions of dollars, and sort of retired. And I said to him, great piece of advice, which fits into my advice to everybody else, is get advice. We'll talk about mentors and all the rest. And I said, Len, what should I do? A la your question now about exit strategy. And he said, my advice to you is choose the best parts of your business and stick with them and give the rest to everybody else, which is what I've done. So I choose the best parts of my business. In summer, it's the kids. I love to be with the students, so I take them for breakfast this morning. I had 5 crying students who were homesick, and I love to just delve into their lives, and just by being interested in them, which I am, genuinely interested, it somehow alleviates the pain of being away from home, but whatever it is. And I spend my days. Tonight I'm taking another bunch of our students. I drive one of the school buses to the Jewish Relief Agency, the JRA, where we feed some poor Russian people. And to see the delight on the young people's face when they take a box of food to these people, number one, it gives me such pleasure, but I see them in this business of giving, just getting such pleasure out of it. And so I've taken the best parts of my job. In summer, for 8 weeks, the kids popping into the classes, speaking to the business class this morning, taking them on trips. That's the best part. In the winter, I love to create, so creating new programs, going to Columbia University, we're trying to start a program there next year, going to NYU, we're trying to start a program, and out of the box programs, I'm trying and probably will start a program at NYU for dentistry students. Wow. 16, 17, 18-year-old youngsters who think they may want to go into dentistry. So it's a 2-week program there where they can try it and see, coming from all over the world.
Right.
And so that's what I do. I have a great bunch of people doing the rest. So the question then is, I suppose my exit strategy is to die, I suppose, because I don't need to exit anyway. I'm exited already. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and that's my life.
That's good.
Yeah.
So is there any last advice that you would give future entrepreneurs?
Wow. Go for it. Enjoy the ride. Take the pain. Have fun. Very important. That's one of my main, when I hire somebody, or when Steve, our HR person, hires somebody, if they don't have a good sense of humor, if they can't laugh at the world and at themselves, because that's really important. So yes, there's a focus of business or trying to make money and all that. I'd say find some mentors, very important. Ask lots of questions. You've got two ears and one mouth. Curiosity is a new book out by Brian Grazer, who's a film producer in Hollywood, and he talks about the curiosity conversations. And he has knocked on a lot of doors, even when he wasn't famous, and said, I'd like to know if it's the Pope or something like that. It's a wonderful book. I like to read business books. Some of them you can summarize in 4 pages. Who moved the cheese? It's not worth the whole book. But on the other hand, this curiosity, there's some books that resonated with me. A guy like Steve Jobs' book was excellent. True Maverick, Richard Branson. Actually, these are my heroes. Richard Branson, Steve Jobs. I have about 4 or 5 people that I just study and look up to. Winston Churchill, people who made a difference, and mavericks, a little crazy, dyslexic, between Bill Gates and Richard Branson and company, so that's not a hindrance. In fact, ADD like me and many other people. And so my advice, getting back to your question, just do it. I mean, good old Nike got it right. Just do it. I mean, Think and Grow Rich. It's a book I read when I was 16, and I still live by it. Napoleon Hill. The lessons are the same. Is if you want to grow rich, if you want to grow a business, if you want to fix the world or whatever, just wake up thinking, what am I going to do to fix the world, to make money, to grow a business? And if you do that, we're in good shape. And we need entrepreneurs. America's built on small business. It's built on entrepreneurs. I hope we never lose that spirit, because that does distinguish us from the hardworking Chinese people. I think there's lots of wonderful people all over the world, but we are pretty innovative, and I think it's shown with patents that we're still leading the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
It was good.